Hello, my name is Chuck Thompson, Director of World Emergency. The problems with the state of our union is simply this. We're not unified. And not just politically with our government officials, but the media as well. Media, TV, and radio hosts spread their own brand of political poison throughout the airwaves on a 24-hour basis. Now, this is a double deadly mixture of disease. And the disease is bitterness. The bitterness shown between the parties and the nasty media networks are amplifying the politicians' divisiveness with their own slanderous slants. Now listen, if this hateful rhetoric continues, it will only end in the death of our nation. No matter what solution we try to devise to fix our economic and ecological problems we have throughout our country and the rest of the world, our nation will still collapse, and the international community will certainly follow. The maker of all mankind states, can two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Well, we better start agreeing. Or have we forgotten that old saying, united we stand, divided we fall? Now, that's not some old cliche. That's a real truism. Now, sadly, we have forgotten these basic truths. We are losing our way as a nation. We have forgotten who we are. Church of God minister said, when you lose your identity, you lose your way. Now, at this current time, the state of the union is crumbling, and we cannot afford to lose our way. And listen, if you need a reminder who we are, let me tell you, we're still the single greatest nation on the face of the earth, a nation blessed by God. And yet we are allowing our blessings to be taken away right before our very eyes. Moreover, we are to blame with our abuse and misuse, destroying our blessings with our own hands. Somehow we don't realize that running our mouths against our own family members does harm to our families. The citizens of this nation is the family. And now we must come together as a family. Listen, that doesn't mean we can't point out the bad that people do within the family. We can give out loving rebukes. I do just that within the pages of my publication, Reconciling Us a Revolution. On page 6, I talk about the radio and TV hosts and point them out one by one. Now, if you want to know if you're on that list, you can give me a call direct and I'll send it to you direct. I certainly won't mind speaking with you directly and lovingly. Again, we've lost our way, but we can find our way back. There is a solution, an economic solution and an ecological solution, not just for the United States, but the entire international community. And what's up with the international community? They are coming apart at the seams. But I tell you what, we ain't seen nothing yet. If we don't devise a better solution and situation economically, ecologically, to fix the problems, all of those problems we see around the world will hit here. They've already hit us, the United States. Therefore, we need to act fast. And we have a fast solution that have long-term positive effects. You've heard many times where politicians and news media hosts say, we need a game changer, something that will turn things around. Well, there has been a proposal in the works for about a decade and a half now, which will do just that. change the game, where all of the rules and the regulations are in our favor. The plan is titled the Watchman Program. It will literally generate trillions of dollars in new revenue on a yearly basis and build 20 to 40 million jobs worldwide. Initially, within the first year's completion of the project, 10 million jobs would have been created. And all of this success will come without raising new taxes, cutting any vital services, or devising a new spending plan. And for the fourth one, and this is most crucial, it does not need any gridlock legislation body to vote up or down on the program. We simply don't need it. We will put this sacred cow to pasture. Since the government can't come together and work politically with each other, the private sector will be the ones to come to the rescue. Basically, the plan is this: 10,000 emergency disaster economic job training centers will be set up nationwide. These centers will house the local and federal authorities working together side by side to help combat terrorism, giving the public understanding of what they should do and how they should do within the terrorist attack or threat. Moreover, for the so-called natural disasters, which are unnatural, earthquakes, fires, floods, civil unrest, first, second, and third responders will be taught, educated throughout the many cities and states throughout our union. The local offices that we'll set up within the centers are the police department, fire department, search and rescue teams, federally, Homeland Security, the CDC, FEMA, and other agencies will provide the information and the training needed for the citizens to be knowledgeable on what to do, how to react, how to help, how to provide the vital services that our friends and family members will need in times of disaster. Now, this is the fundamental premise of these centers. But there is much, much more. Other federal and local agencies such as HUD, Housing and Urban Authority, redevelopment agency officers, job training classes run by the private sector, and job fairs organized by local government officials as well as private organizations. These and many other agencies will be set up within these centers to provide a magnet of opportunity and activity directly to the sponsor corporations which fund all of these centers. Corporations such as Walmart, Home Depot, Costco, Lowe's Department Store, Sears, Target, and other store corporations will sponsor these emergency economic job training centers on their store property, within their parking lot structures. Portable emergency economic job training centers will be built and set up to provide services direct for the citizens that live within the cities near these centers. Now, the costs to build these centers and the revenue which will be generated from them will all come from the sponsored dollars direct from the corporations. Sponsorship funding will range upwards to $25,200,000 per quarter. That's right. That means over $100 million per center will be generated from these centers. The centers themselves, depending upon the size, only cost between 8 to 12 million US dollars. Yet over 100 million will be generated on an annual basis. Now you take $100 million times 10,000 centers nationwide. That's over $1 trillion in new revenue. Now I know. You ask why, pray tell, will the corporations pay upwards to $100 million to sponsor these centers? The answer is simple. Economics. The corporations themselves will receive 2 to 4 times more the dollars of which they put in. Again, these centers will be a magnet of activity and opportunity for the citizens that live in and around these cities where the centers will be placed. They will flock to the centers to gain understanding and knowledge from the job training centers or from the other agencies regarding HUD to buy a home or how to keep their own home, to be trained for a new job, or to attend the job training fairs on the premises, as well as shop and buy the goods and services within the department store that is sponsoring the center. But it goes much, much further than that. You see, these centers are zero-grid green facilities. That means they are not hooked up to the local power grid. They have their own renewable power source built within the facility, which runs all of the electrical applications within the center. Now, you might ask, why is this important? Well, simply this. It builds a new industry. It sets up nationwide a system-wide network of emergency disaster economic job training centers which are portable and run on their own renewable power sources. This is a green zero-grid industry, and it puts the entire nation on the same page, the same understanding of what is needed economically and ecologically, not just within our own nation, but internationally as well. This industry will spawn a whole host of new facilities throughout the nation and throughout the world. Moreover, on display in and around these centers will be built samples of a home, a school, an office, an emergency medical unit, and a portable farm. These will be on display around the centers, placed on the property location of the store corporations which sponsors them. A new industry is instantly built. Not just the hidden miss one we have now with some solar panels here and some biodiesel generators here and some renewable gas stations here. No. Instantly, systematically, nationwide, and soon worldwide, this new green zero-grid facilities industry will be in place, giving the nation and the world a first-hand look at a successful future, bringing our nation and the global community back from the brink of economic and ecological disaster. Now, let's step back for a second and take a look at what has just been presented. Potentially over $1 trillion in new revenue will be generated. And this on an annual basis from these centers. And 10 million jobs are instantly created because you need 10 million new employees to run and operate the 10,000 centers set up throughout the nation. The store corporation sponsorship dollars pays for the entire operation. There is no new spending plan needed, no vital services cut, and no new taxes raised. And again, more importantly, no gridlock legislation body there to vote up, vote down, and destroy the program before it gets to start. The federal government and the local government will work directly with the private sector, corporations within our country and around the world to set up these centers, giving them the privilege with incentives to bring them in, to provide the funding for all of these centers where our nation's citizens can get back to work, and the revenues that will be built and the trillions of revenues which will be generated will help reconcile not just the books of the federal government, but all of the cities and states throughout the Union. From the foundation of this new industry, a cascade of new products and services will be built. Entrepreneurships will spring up coast to coast. And all of you who are gung-ho for new taxes will be paid from the new jobs, the new corporations, the new entrepreneurships that will be set up throughout our nation and internationally. And this adds to the over $1 trillion annually in new revenue generated. Now, that's basic revenue coming directly from the sponsored dollars from the corporations. Within the city, the state, and the federal government, 30% to the city, 30% to the state, and 30% to the federal government, allowing the city, the state, and the federal government to systematically reconcile their own books, getting their house in order and taking them out of the current budget crisis our entire nation is in. But as I have stated before, there is much, much more. With the construction of all of these emergency disaster economic job training centers, the sponsoring corporations will work with construction companies to build them. The construction companies themselves will work with the local colleges and universities, schools of higher learning, generating a joint venture to work together to build these portable emergency economic job training centers together. The students within these schools will be taught firsthand, working alongside the construction companies. Many of the pre-constructed centers can be erected on the college or university property itself, where the faculty and the students can have direct access, learning how to build these new portable zero-grid green facilities from start to finish. Competition contracts will be set up to provide financially for the university as well as the students for their employment or their internship participation. This gives our schools of higher learning and the students within an enormous advantage, learning the new technologies that go within providing renewable power sources for all these facilities, as well as giving them more than a leg up of opportunities after they leave college. They now can work directly with the companies, the construction corporations which hire them while they were in school, or they can leave and start their own company, building a more efficient green industry to our nation. In addition, high school participation, starting with the juniors and seniors, mandatory trips if need be, should be made, field trips to the universities where the construction companies and the colleges are working together, building this new green industry across the nation. This will inspire the young students from one end of our nation to the other. Not just simply to go to college, but to give them the spark that they might need and provide better solutions to the entire world's need for cleaner, renewable energy sources. Now, let's step back once again. This provides crucial revenues needed for our colleges and universities nationwide, which are also embroiled in a budget crisis themselves. Now, the construction companies get paid. The universities, the colleges get paid. The students are also compensated, paid for their services, paid to learn. This, of course, helps them pay the catastrophic costs of their tuition fees. And with the corporations working directly with the colleges, hopefully the colleges and universities will lower their fees. Although we won't hold our breath on that, will we? Yet all of these advantages gets our nation back to work and working together instead of against one another, complaining about entitlements taken away, which, frankly, in many cases, we shouldn't have been given in the first place. This very thing is what's bringing down the nations throughout the international community, which will certainly bring our nation down if we do not get our house in order. Moreover, we can help the international community. The same emergency disaster economic job training centers set up throughout our nation, 10,000 of them, coast to coast. We can set up the same facilities in and around the American embassies or the consulate offices that we hold around the world. These facilities will give insight and understanding and help to those nations. The same display of homes, schools, offices, emergency medical units, as well as portable farms will be available for purchase to sell throughout the international communities. From the international sales of this new technology built on the backs of our corporations, construction companies, as well as universities and their students, a conservative estimate of another $1 trillion will be generated on an annual basis. That's right, $2 trillion, $1 trillion domestically, $1 trillion internationally. Now, the trillion domestically will be shared 30% to the city, 30% to the state, 30% to the federal government. Yet the trillion that will be generated internationally will go directly to the federal government, and which should go directly to paying down the debt. But again, this is a very conservative estimate. Not only will we be selling to individual citizens throughout these nations, but to their governments, as well as to their military. The centers themselves will already be bulletproof. That is, they can suffer your local AKA within the neighborhood. Yet we can make them even more weapon resistant, especially coming from the military. And of course, even within our own nation, many of the military bases need refurbishing badly. All of the homes, schools, offices, medical facilities, and barracks can be replaced with these new portable zero-grid green facilities. Again, this is a new industry. Along with selling the planes and weapons around the world, we will sell this new facilities industry. And we can place ourselves ahead of the curve to the rest of the nations. That is, if we start now. For the nation that starts now with this Watchman program will be ahead of the rest. Like Apple is head of the phone and tablet industry, and other communication corporations are now playing catch-up. We have a definite window of opportunity here, of which we had better take. Certainly, we can't afford not to take it. Now, let's step back one more time. What other plan do we have which will generate over $1 trillion in new revenue domestically, helping the federal government, the cities and the states throughout the Union reconcile their books, as well as another $1 trillion internationally, which will go towards helping our nation pay down its debt. This program, which also creates 10 million jobs nationwide, with a potential to double and triple as the sales from the centers progress throughout the years, helping fund the colleges and universities and financially the families throughout the nation, the parents who send their children, or even the students who are simply on their own. Again, all of this bypassing gridlock legislation, raising no new taxes, no new spending plan, and cutting no vital services. Simply put, everyone wins. And let's not forget, the citizens within the cities, these centers are placed. The magnet of activity and opportunity at these centers will help give guidance, direction, and understanding, not just for those who are trying to buy a new home, but for those who are trying to keep one. Many of the new facilities built will be zero grid, giving them an enormous financial advantage for those who dwell within. Certainly sparking to jealousy those other facilities to wean themselves off the grid. This is certainly something the Kyoto Treaty would have never achieved, trying to force citizens and whole nations, punishing them with so-called carbon penalties. Yet all nations, including India and China, can wean themselves off the grid with this Watchman program. We discuss in detail the entire economic, ecological proposal, not just for the United States, but again, for the entire international community. The EU, especially Japan, with the disasters that took place there, as well as all of Asia, the Middle East, especially Africa. Winning a Nation is a publication within Reconciling Us a Revolution. It's simply a short 60-page proposal discussing how all nations can reconcile themselves with their citizens and reconcile their books at the same time, helping their citizens, especially, as I like to point out, the nation of Gabon. It has the key to all 50-plus nations throughout the continent of Africa to raise up the level of prosperity for all citizens throughout the continent by providing them more than the basic necessities of life: food, clothes, shelter, and emergency first aid. Entrepreneurships will rise up across the continent in regards to winning a nation by winning the citizens which dwell within. All nations simply need to prepare themselves for the troubles that will beset all peoples over the face of the earth. Yet the crucial foundation aspect of these centers will be education. Because I really do believe we forget that our nation is currently under attack. Not only are we currently fighting wars around the world, a war is going on within. And just because more terrorist attacks to the tune of 9/11 have not yet taken place, it by no means they will not. I'm here to tell you, they will. And we had better get ourselves ready. These emergency disaster economic centers, 10,000 of them from coast to coast, will be the foundation of getting our nation educated to know what to do and how to do in a terrorist attack or threat or an unnatural disaster. I've written within my book publications what you should do before the tribulation age of 42 and reconciling us or revolution. The fact that an ignorant person is a dangerous person. And if that ignorance is in a tragic setting of a disaster, where chaos and confusion rules the day, then lawlessness, with crimes ranging from robbery, rape, and murder, will also rule those days. We must get ready. Time is not on our side and quickly running out. Within this Watchman program solution, not only can we get the nation back working again, bringing the national unemployment rates dramatically down, conservatively cutting it in half, but the cities, the states, and the federal government can reconcile their books. Moreover, the debt can be paid, wiped from the books, not just in 16 years, which would be great, but 8 years, which would be far better. Perhaps we can even set a speed record and do it within 4. That's right. The same span of time a United States president serves in office. P.S. Here's a note to all of those who are currently in the running against the president. If the president adopts this entire Watchman program plan, your chance of winning will be almost zero. Yet, for our nation's sake and the rest of the world, let us hope that he does. We all need to sincerely pray for the president, the entire administration, and all government officials, for the great God of heaven to protect and watch over our nation, as well as bless the entire international community.